Hello friend, welcome back to my channel. How are you today? I hope you're doing well. It's Tim here, and in this video I will be guiding you through the steps to create this galaxy painting. I completely forgot how much I love painting galaxies. It's been a little while, so I had so much fun with this painting and I'm super excited to share it with you. I think this will be a great painting too for any digital painter at any skill level, and if you recreate this painting, I would absolutely love to see it. So if you're on Instagram, please tag me at TimStarStudio. Upcoming here are the hex codes and the color palette that I use. That way you can recreate the colors at home, as well as the brushes that you'll need for this painting. And they are actually all a part of the Procreate default library, and it's a really simple, really easy brush list today. And if you need to pause or to take a break, I've included one in the tutorial itself, but if you need to take any more breaks throughout the painting, feel free to at any time. So when you're ready, let's begin. So first we're going to use the black in our palette and we're going to fill in our background. Then in a new layer, using the orange, that is the second color in the second row, and using the technical pen with a medium size and high opacity, we're going to make orange dots over the whole image, just to be careful not to create any dots right on the edge, just within the image itself. And if you have any oops dots, feel free to get rid of them. I had to do them a couple of times. I will say it's probably a little bit easier to make the dots a little bit closer up too. And feel free to variegate the size, make some bigger dots and smaller dots. Just make sure to keep them in the frame itself. And then in that same layer, using the light blue, that is the first color in the second row, we're going to repeat that same process, making different size dots all over the image, just within that space. And when you're happy with the amount of dots that you have, we're going to make a copy of this layer and then shrink it to about 1/4 of the original size. And then we're going to place that layer in the upper left-hand corner. And you don't have to make sure it's exactly perfect, but just close enough. Something optional you can use too is the snapping and magnetics. I love this tool and it's really useful to be able to help align your layers better. Then we're going to make another copy of the original layer and you're going to flip it whichever way you like, so it's a little bit different than the first time. And then we're going to shrink it to about 1/4 of its size again, and we're going to place it in the upper right hand corner. And then we're going to repeat the process 2 more times, once in the bottom right corner and once in the lower left corner. Just making sure each new layer is a little different than the one before it, and if anything is overlapping or weird, or you've got any hard edges from the stars, feel free to erase them or to change the size of the layer just so they overlap a little bit better. And once you're happy with your stars, we're going to collapse all of those layers onto one layer. So the next couple steps are going to be repeating what we just did, taking this new star layer and repeating the process and making 4 more copies. Shrinking each new copy to 1/4 of its original size and then flipping it whichever way you like, and you can adjust it and resize it as needed, and then fitting these new layers into each corner. And once you're happy with how it looks, you're going to merge all of these new star layers back into one layer. So when I was looking at it, I kind of decided that these colors were still looking a little too bright for the background. So I used the saturation and hue tool and turned the saturation of the layer down to about 25%, and then the brightness down to about 40%. And you can kind of play with these adjustments in your own painting a little bit more as well. But this really helps those stars kind of recede into the background a little bit better. So now to paint our nebula, which I am super excited for. So switching over to the soft airbrush and adding a new layer, using the first blue in the first row and about 50% opacity, I keep saying opacity today, opacity or so, with a large size brush, begin lightly laying down color diagonally from the bottom left hand corner to the top right corner in small circular motions. And it's so funny too, because if I mess up a word one time, I'll get it right the next time, and then I'll mess up a whole different word. So I'm just we're just gonna go with it. Today it's gonna be opacity. That's just gonna be the thing. Opacity kind of sounds like one of those crazy medications you'd see on TV. Today's video is brought to you by Opacity. Side effects include messed up words, the giggles, and choosing starving artist as a career path. Then I'm going to switch back over to using the blur brush with the soft airbrush, and with a large size and medium to low opacity, we're going to lightly blend over what we just painted. And then I'm going to lower the opacity of this first layer to about 80%. So next, adding a new layer and still using the same blue, we're going to repeat the process again, only with a smaller size brush, just repeating the small circular paint motions, going from bottom left to upper right, and then we're going to lightly blend it out again. And then I'm going to lower the opacity of this layer to about 70%. And now I'm going to be hyper aware of this word every time I say it. Just lightly continue to blend this out, just leaving just a little bit of the squiggly texture behind. It really kind of adds to the nebula gas look to the clouds. So once you have this layer opacity turned down, you're going to add a new layer, and then we're going to switch over to the pink. That is the third color in the first row, and then we're going to repeat the same process, only with a very light hand, even more so than before, really allowing some of the blue from the background to still show through. And then you're going to use the blur tool and blend it out. Blending this pink over top of this blue color will start to give us all of these pretty purples in between too, which is a really cool effect. And then once you're happy with your blending, you're going to add a new layer. And now using the light pen from the luminance section and using the blue that is the first color in the second row, switch the layer over to linear light. And then with a medium to small size brush and high opacity, we're going to lay down a new layer of stars over top of our nebula. Similar to the way we did it initially, kind of just variegating the star size, making sure to add medium and small ones. Just kind of placing them around the center of the painting. And once you're happy with the amount of stars that you have, we're going to slightly shrink the star layer and put it so it's a little bit more in the middle of the painting. Then we're going to create a copy of it. We're going to flip it and then place it off to the upper right hand side. Then we're going to make another copy of the original layer, flip it diagonally and put it on the bottom left hand side. So it kind of creates a diagonal of stars. And then we're going to make another copy of it, flip it and shrink it a little bit and put it in the very center of the painting. You're happy with your stars, you're going to merge all of these layers together back into one, and then I'm going to turn the brightness down to about 43%, but feel free to adjust it to however much you like. These are the background stars, so you don't want them to be super bright. Then we're going to add another new layer of color. Using the green, that is the second color in the first row, and switching back to the soft airbrush, we're going to sporadically lay down some more squiggles of color. With a small brush and low opacity with a very light hand, just making circular motions over the nebula, and then switching back over to the blur tool, we're going to lightly blend it out. Just allowing a little bit of the green to peek through, and then we're going to turn the opacity of this layer down to about 72%. So now to add some new stars. So next we're going to add another new layer and switch it back into linear light again, and then switching back to the light pen in the light blue that is the first color in the first row. With a large size and high opacity with a little bit more pressure than before, we're going to lay down some bigger stars and some medium-sized stars. I forgot to turn this layer into linear light, so you'll see me correct that here in just a second, but then I'm going to turn the brightness of the star layer down to about 44%. So just like what we did with the stars from before, I'm going to shrink this layer and then I'm going to put it into the middle of the painting. I'm going to make a copy of it, flip it and turn it and put it into the bottom left corner, repeat the process and put it into the top right corner as well. And then I'm going to merge these three star layers together, make a copy of it, shrink the copy and put it into the middle of the painting. We're then going to make another copy of this original layer and we're going to repeat basically the same thing, only the next one that we shrink, we're going to make it just a little bit bigger than this first copy layer and place this in the center as well over top of the first copy, and then we're going to merge all of these star layers into one. Which brings us to our painting break. So if you need to pause or to stretch your legs and get something to eat or drink, I'll be here waiting to start part 2 with you when you're ready. So beginning part 2. So next I'm going to add a new layer and put that layer into overlay. And then using the soft airbrush, we're going to switch to the white that is the fourth color in the first row. And with a small brush and medium opacity, we're going to lightly lay down a wash of color into the center, really focusing in on the diagonal shape from the bottom left corner to the top right corner and adding minimal and sporadic amounts of color to the other sides as well. And then we're going to take the blending brush and lightly blend it out. And you'll really start to see these really cool little color shifts starting to happen in the corners too. We have all of that pink, green, and blue underneath, and it's barely visible right now, but once you put a layer into overlay on top and put the white over it, it's really going to make it come to life. Then we're going to add another new layer and basically repeat the process, putting the layer into overlay, brightening the center of the newly formed galaxy with a little bit more color, and then lightly blending it out. And then I'm going to turn this layer's opacity down to about 78%. Next, I'm going to add another new layer and switch to the black color that is the third color in the second row. With a medium size and low opacity with the soft airbrush, we're going to lightly sketch in some black color over top of the edges of our galaxy, kind of making noodly squiggly shapes again, and then lightly blending them out. And then I'm going to turn this layer down to about 50%. Now to start our finishing touches. So we're going to add some more detail stars to the piece. We're going to add a new layer and switching over to the light pen again and using the light blue that is the first color in the second row. We're going to create some larger and some medium-sized stars in the center of the painting just like before, and then we're going to shrink them and move them into the middle of the painting. Next, I'm going to make a copy of this star layer and we're going to flip it. We're going to make it even smaller than the first time and we're going to put it into the very center of the painting as well. Then I'm going to add another new layer. We're going to put it into overlay. And using the soft airbrush and the color white, we're going to sporadically lay down some more highlight color, really just focusing in on the center of the painting, the diagonal from the left bottom to the right top, and just a little bit into the other areas as well, but mostly keeping the highlight focused in the center of the painting. And when you're happy with the amount of color that you have laid down, you're going to take the blending brush and lightly blend it out. And once you're happy with your blending, I'm then going to make a copy of the tiny star layer from earlier, and then I'm going to flip it around and put it right into the very center of the painting, and that'll really help fill that area out and make it look a lot brighter and more dense. Then I'm going to add a new layer and put that layer into overlay, and using the color white, we're going to highlight the very center of the galaxy, and then using Gaussian blur, we're going to blur it to about 17% and turn the layer opacity down to about 72%. So the last couple of details I want to add are a couple more bright, more nova-like stars. So in a new layer using the white again and the light pen, we're going to add a couple of large and medium stars sporadically over the painting, and then we're going to shrink them down a little bit. We're going to move them up into the center of the painting, make a copy of them, and then I'm going to move that copy up to the upper left corner and turn them. I'm going to make another copy of them, turn them, and put them across from those in the bottom right-hand corner, and we're done. It's the very last thing for us to do is to sign our painting. I would recommend using the light pen. That's what I'm going to use, and I'm going to use the pink because I think it's going to look really cool against the sky. Thank you so much for watching, friend. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you want to see any more space tutorials, just let me know below. And if you recreate this painting, I would absolutely love to see it. So please tag me at TimStarStudio on Instagram. And if you like this video and enjoy content like this, please like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps my channel out. And until next time, friend, happy painting.